Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. We are live. Today's Sunday, December 20th, 2009. I'm your host, Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week, Jen Peeples. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. By the way, today is a very special day, and as I get to sit in the driver's seat and decide what goes on the show, happy birthday, Mom. I know she's not watching, and she would prefer a birthday present where I did not appear on this show again ever, but I love you, and happy birthday. So, yeah, today's December 20th. We are rapidly approaching Christmas, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit as well. For the people who are watching already, you'll see that I brought in my Grinch. Unfortunately, it matches our green screen, so we're going to call him the Ghost of Christmas Present, so as he flies around. So, it's live TV, and it looks like things are working this week. So we're incredibly optimistic. We've already got full phone lines. They're going to be screening them and put them up in just a second, so I'll get through the announcements pretty quick. As I mentioned, this is a live public access television show sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The ACA has weekly meetings every Sunday at Romeo's on Barton Springs Road beginning at around 11:30. Except for the first Sunday of the month when we host our lecture series at the Austin History Center located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. The next lecture will be January 3rd. You can go to the ACA website, www.atheist-community.org, for more information about all of our upcoming events. There's a calendar there as well as announcements. The January 3rd lecture will feature Fred Edwards from the Coalition of Reason, who will be coming down to speak to a number of groups in the Austin area about hooking up with the Coalition of Reason and possibly putting billboards up in the Austin area as well. So if you're in the Austin area and you're not a part of the ACA, but you are part of some other atheist, secular, rationalist, free-thinking group, whatever, and you happen to be watching the show or visit the website, please come by the January 3rd lecture. It's important. We want to get as many rational-thinking people as we can involved in this project so that people can recognize that Austin isn't coming late to the party. We've been here for years, probably producing more hours of media than two other atheist organizations combined. That's not a slight against them. They can just do more. So in addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors a biweekly internet audio podcast called The Nonprofits. For more information, you can go to nonprofitsradio.com. That's P-R-O-P-H-E-T-S. And we were live yesterday for a special year-end show. Featured myself, Dennis LeBay, Russell Glasser, and Schilling drove down from Dallas for a special episode so that we could get just that little extra vitriol going. We'll be back, Nonprofits will be back for the 2010 season starting on January 16th, and probably nearly every 2 weeks after. It's gotten to the point where I can't guarantee that we're doing it every 2 weeks, but we'll be working on it. And I'm also working on some additional special shortened editions of the Nonprofits to kind of fill in gaps and make up for us mistreating our listeners so poorly by not having episodes for a couple months. So we'll do what we can. In addition to the lecture, the morning brunch, there's a number of other ACA events, including a happy hour every Thursday at the Dog and Duck Pub at 17th and Guadalupe beginning around 7 o'clock. And after this program's over, everybody involved gets together for dinner at Threadgill's. That's at 301 West Riverside Drive here in Austin. If you're not in Austin, I don't know, cook up some home cooking at home and pretend like you've joined us. If you are here, you're welcome to come down. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come to any of our events. You don't have to be a member as long as you're not coming down to preach, proselytize, provoke, punch, piss off, pester, or pontificate about how cool you are. You're welcome to join us. We encourage that. One of the biggest reasons for the ACA's existence is to support the atheist community in the Austin area. We do more than that in the terms of media outreach to the world, and we're very appreciative of all the people who are joining us live via our own streaming service and live this week with the new beta version of Channel Austin Stream. You can put that announcement back up. I added it to the tail end. If you're on Internet Explorer, you can go to facil.channelaustin.org/streaming/ch16.htm. Everybody else is going to go to the same address except for ch16.asx. That's the new beta version of the Channel Austin stream. They've asked us to test this out, so if you're currently watching on Ustream and you have the ability to do so, please give one of those two addresses a try. See, we're told that the video quality and perhaps the audio quality as well is going to be much better. We're interested in kind of putting this through the paces, and the more listeners and more viewers we can get to watch these new streams, the better information we'll get about how these streams work, and this will allow Channel Austin to improve them and modify them for future use, because we're the only show in town. Nobody else has got hundreds of people trying to catch the stream every week. And so this is, let's see if we can get it over 1,000 on next week's show. So get the word out if you're listening over, if you're listening to the audio via MP3, your podcast, whatever. Might want to tune in next Sunday and see if you can join live streaming 4:30 p.m. Central, and we're on until 6 o'clock. Dinner's at 6:30 afterwards. I think that's almost all of the announcements.
Okay.
Almost. But I'm not remembering what the other ones are.
I can't think of anything you missed right offhand. So I missed Schilling. Is he going to be at dinner tonight?
We don't know.
Oh.
I'm hoping so. He may be able to make it down.
Our favorite misanthrope.
Yes.
I've had an email conversation with a misanthrope. You may have been reading that.
Yeah. That's what I forgot to announce. I saved this for afterwards. In addition to being able to visit the websites, if you want to contact us and you do not get through on the telephone today, or you don't want to get through on the telephone today, or you're terrified of getting through on the telephone today, you can email tv@atheist-community.org. That email goes to myself, the co-host, some of the people behind the scenes. We cannot promise to respond to all of them, but we do read all of them. And this is very important. If you're sending an email, in the subject line, please include either AETV or NPR. That's the only way that I can guarantee that your email is not going to be eaten by my spam filters. Other people may get it. On occasion, I see an email that was eaten by my spam filters that somebody else saw and answered, and I see the response because theirs is protected. But if you're looking to get it, make sure it gets to me and to everybody, or as many people as possible. Please include those labels in the subject line. We get entirely too much mail, and some legitimate mail just gets marked as spam. Because, I don't know, maybe the spam filters of Yahoo and Google and stuff are now trying to avoid religious proselytizing. So, are you all ready for Christmas?
I am. I actually had a very interesting week. I was on jury duty this week.
Great.
Yeah.
Did they make you say, "So help you God"?
They didn't, actually, and that's something we get in email a lot. People will say, "Hey, how do you do jury duty? Do you get kicked off if you're an atheist or whatever?" And so I tell you that there was no point in the selection process where I was even asked any questions about religion. So they didn't even know until I said something to the judge when she was about to swear us in, and I told her I don't swear to any God. So she said, "Okay, I'll give you a separate oath." And so she did. So no big deal. And I was actually selected for a jury and seated, so not a big deal.
Yeah, and actually Schilling brought this. Why is there an empty thing there?
I don't know. There's like a bar at the
Jen
bottom.
is blank.
Yeah.
It should say Jen, but they'll get it. Anyway, we talked about this yesterday, and actually Schilling and I have had conversations about this before in the past. And Schilling raises what I think is a very good point that deserves to be raised again, which is giving somebody the option to either swear on a Bible and "So help me God" versus choosing not to do that and just to affirm. While that may be a step in the right direction, it's still problematic.
Yeah.
Because it introduces a bias. If you're doing this, for example, if you're coming up as a witness and there's a jury there, and the last two witnesses have, "I swear to tell the truth, so help me God," and you come up and "I affirm that I will tell the truth under the penalty of perjury," and sit down, that immediately puts your statements in a different context. Now, it may be, to some jurors, a more positive context, and to others it may be a negative context. But in order to eliminate this potential bias, what we need is a uniform, secular swearing-in process, or eliminate swearing in. The idea of swearing is also insane. You just bring somebody up, and do you acknowledge that the testimony you're about to give is being given under penalty of perjury? I mean, that's where the true impact is.
Right.
"So help me God" does nothing. People
Yeah,
lie for
yeah,
their gods all the
because-
time. It's
yeah,
perjury that's the
Because
issue.
basically the penalty the court is going to mete out is not that God's going to strike you dead because you told a lie or you didn't, do something you said you were going to do under oath. It's going to be that the court will sanction you.
Yeah.
You will either be in contempt of court or you'll be charged with perjury or something legal will happen to you. You're not going to wait till the next life or get struck down from this one because you didn't do what you said in your oath. But, I mean, the simple thing to do would be just omit that "so help me God" part at the end, and because that's all my oath was. It was the same as everybody else's except without the "so help me God" part. And so my preference would be that you just have the same oath, but at the end, you just omit that part. And then if somebody wants to put that out there, then that's on them. And that would be an expression of their personal beliefs, and that's permissible, versus the court saying, "so help you God."
Not quite sure what's going on with the stuff at the bottom of the screen, but
Yeah.
so we'll let you go ahead and
Well,
finish up what you were talking about, and we'll start
flipping
taking
my
some
finger.
calls.
Well, no, I actually, the war on Christmas has gone to Congress. South Carolina has their own clueless git of a representative here, Henry Brown, who introduced a resolution which makes it clear that Christmas should not be watered down for political correctness. He's very concerned that Christmas is being watered down and it's becoming a politically correct holiday season. And this is going to cause the loss of sacred traditions and things. And so I'm feeling a tear here for Henry. But anyway, he strongly disapproves of any attempts to ban references to Christmas. And he expresses support of those symbols and traditions. So he's taken valuable time from Congress to introduce this non-binding resolution. And he's been joined by 18 of his fellow House Republicans this week, and I think there probably are some Democrats that are going to sign on to that too, so it's not a political thing here. And his last comment was that while Christmas is a national holiday, its true meaning is to celebrate the birth of Christ.
Okay.
So.
Well, I might say that I strongly disapprove of attempts to ban references to Christmas. I don't see any reason to ban references to Christmas.
I don't either.
I'm not even sure what he's complaining about. I mean, it's who's banning references to Christmas? Now, perhaps there may be some legislation that prevents overt religious displays in some cases, and we have a couple of callers who are actually waiting to talk about those types of things. But that's not a ban on referencing Christmas. And I don't know how it could ever happen, being a national holiday. Hey, guess what? Christmas is coming up. I'm mentioning it. We're probably going to talk about it off and on quite a bit today.
Yeah.
I think Russell's point from last week is very well taken, which is that there's not so much a war on Christmas as there's a war on everything that's not Christian about Christmas by Christians.
Well, and here's another example of that. There's a website now called standforchristmas.com, and it's sponsored by, I think, Focus on the Family is one of the sponsors of this, and Family Research Council probably. But they're basically rating the retailers, saying, who's friendly, who's negligent, and who's offensive. And they don't give a definition of how you rate those, whether they're friendly, negligent, or offensive. Somehow I kind of doubt that, if you go into an American Eagle outfitter, that they're going to say, fuck Christmas, happy holidays, so I don't know. But anyway, that like, Russell was saying, it's really a war on everything non-Christian about the holiday season.
Yeah.
So, now they're telling people, hey, you can use these ratings to decide who to shop with.
And you can. You are entitled to boycott
Absolutely.
whoever you want for whatever silly little reason you feel like.
Yeah.
One of these days, I think the biggest fear is that they're going to get to a point where nobody, including their adherents, pays any attention to their little boycott schemes. And now all of a sudden they'll be reduced back to the toothless status that they had, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So, well, we've got several callers on the subject, and I want to if you're ready, we can go ahead and
Yes,
get started
the
with them.
topic for today is reason for the season, so bring us reason.
So we've got Robert from Alabama.
Thank you, sir.
How are you?
I'm actually having a pretty good day, to be honest with you. I work a retail store. Now, just so everybody knows, I am a theist. To be more precise, I'm Eastern Orthodox. I'm sure that might mean something to you about some of my personal opinions on this time of year. But I actually had an interesting thing happen to me the other day. I'm on my lunch break in the mall. Dear God help me. And I see this woman having this shirt that says, "Put Christ back in Christmas." And I just rolled my eyes. And, of course, that started her saying something to me. And I pointed out to her that, first off, everything that you celebrate in Christmas has nothing to do with the holiday that was, which was the celebration of the incarnation of Christ. Not a birthday, nothing like that. And that the trees, everything that you're fighting for are blatantly pagan, period, end of story. And that I'm having a problem that they're saying they're trying to put Christ back into Christmas when overall all things Christians were inserted in the first place. And that to me, I don't know how you feel or how other people feel, but it seems to me that that it is more of a secular holiday than anything, and should be.
Yeah.
That if a person wants to celebrate it as a secular, they enjoy taking time for their family and all that. What is the problem? It's secular. Have our Christian things. We go do our little Christian thing. Enjoy ourselves. Why do these people feel that they have to force down their throats their religion? Because we don't see the same thing happening with the hundreds of other celebrations of religions happening at the same time.
Robert, you're now my favorite Christian, and you can call the show whenever you want.
Thank you.
I mentioned this briefly on yesterday's Nonprofits. I occasionally get the opportunity to speak to classes at UT, and I did so about a month or so ago. And of course, a lot of the questions that I got afterwards had to do with Christmas. Do you celebrate? Is it different now? Because I was somebody who was a serious Christian for 3 decades, and my entire family are Christians. And so it's how do you celebrate now, and how is it different from what it was? And I had to explain that for me, when I was a Christian, Christmas was kind of 2 separate holidays. There was the Christian elements. That was the celebration of, as you point out, the incarnation of Jesus, or Jesus' birthday, as it is often referred to in more Protestant religions. And then there was the entirely separate, I wouldn't have known that it was secular at the time, but conglomeration that became a secular Christmas. Trees, Santa, reindeer, presents, eggnog, dinner, drinks, laughing, some carols that aren't perhaps religious, etc. All of these things, getting together with family, celebrating, none of these things have anything to do with Christianity. And I as I pointed out yesterday, I know that in my case, while everybody looked forward to Christmas, what people generally looked forward to were the secular bits. I don't remember as a child anxiously waiting around for the Sunday service where we would celebrate Jesus, because we were in church every Sunday night, Monday night, Wednesday night. We celebrated Jesus all the time, so there was nothing particularly extra special, although you might have, a Christmas pageant or, some sort of special event at the church. But that wasn't what people looked forward to. And by and large, I didn't look forward to it as I was growing up for that reason. And I don't think that if people in my family were to answer the question honestly, I don't think any of them look forward to Christmas for the Christian aspect of it, because that's supposed to be part of who they are every day. They look forward to Christmas for entirely secular purposes.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I still don't understand why they're having to force it in, and I hope you get a caller, because I'll be listening in all day, to explain why a person feels they have to, because it seems to me, even if they try to go from a traditional sense, even if they say, well, it's tradition, well, as I say with anything, well, how far back tradition you want to go? Because it seems to me that traditionally this was never celebrated in the first place except in pagan cultures.
Yeah.
If you want to go back before Christians overtook it, well, then we're going to have to do that. And I would also ask this, and this was brought up in the chat room earlier, that I would like to know is, if you put a tree in your room and you say it's part of Christmas, well, the Bible prohibits that in a religious context. I mean, it out and out says, do not take a tree and decorate it in your home.
Yeah.
So
It's in Jeremiah 10, I think.
Yeah, and so I always wonder, how can they do the two when they want to claim it's Christian, yet at the same time, during the rest of the year, they'll go crazy about pagans and how evil and everybody's going to hell, and doing blatant pagan celebrations.
To be fair,
this entire thing is
to be fair, there are a lot of denominations that do not celebrate Christmas, that do understand and they're opposed to its pagan roots, so they don't celebrate. There are a number of denominations that work that way. The rest of them, I think, are just largely ignorant. And I don't mean that as, oh, you stupid little Christians. It's true. It's ignorance. And we see this ignorance all over the place. I've got a couple little bits that came from emails in Sunday school and stuff that I'll probably touch on a little later about Christians just accepting something as true without any evidence, investigation, or consideration at all. But Robert, I thank you a lot for the call. You there? Okay.
Well, I think those Christians or otherwise who don't celebrate Christmas are just Scrooges.
Yeah. My thing is this whole movement to put Christ back in Christ Mass. Okay, if you followed that to the extent that they seem to prefer, which is let's remove everything that's pagan and secular about Christmas and just celebrate it from a purely Christian standpoint, then the holiday would be about as relevant as Passover. I mean, really.
Yeah.
You would not, there would be nothing particularly special about this season. There would be no reason to make it a national holiday. There would be no reason for businesses to close. It would be just another religious observance. And by the way, for all of you who want to do that, you're entitled to. Nobody's forcing you to tell your kids about Santa. You don't have to exchange gifts. You don't have to put up a tree. I'm not inviting you to my house. You better come over here and give me a present. Jesus loves you. It's silly. I really don't get what a lot of the objection is.
Yeah.
I think it is a fear of irrelevancy, kind of like what we were talking about there. And that is they realize that if, they're afraid that if Christmas continues this pattern of secularization and everything else, that it will entirely lose its significance. No. That's where the significance is. If it were entirely about Jesus, it would be insignificant. It would be as lame as Passover or, Ash Wednesday.
Well, and, when we were down at the Texas Free Thought Convention, Kathleen Johnson was talking about a conversation she'd had with a coworker who said, well, if you're an atheist, then, why do you come to work on Christmas Day? I mean, it's just another day, right? And she said, because I'm not stupid. They're paying me to stay home.
Yeah.
It's like, and for some of us, that's the significance of Christmas. We get a lot of time off.
Yeah, and people want to talk about, well, what's the real reason for the season? Is it the birth of Jesus? Is it peace on earth, goodwill towards men? Is it, loving each other? Is it spending as much money on useless crap as you can? The reason for the season is whatever you want. Celebrate whatever you want for whatever reason you want. Why is that so hard?
Yeah.
Why is it, oh, we need a reason to celebrate. No, we don't. You don't need any reason at all to celebrate. As a matter of fact, it may be better to celebrate without a reason. Celebrate, it's much in the same way that people are like, well, what's the value of life if it ends? No, the value of life is life. The value of celebration is the fact that you're celebrating. I don't know why this stuff's so hard for some people, but we got lots of calls and I don't want to sit here and ramble.
Yes.
So, Justin.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm from Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. We recently received national attention for the Kids for Cash scandal. What happened with that is judges were taking kickbacks to put juveniles into a detention center, and that exploded. But recently, the Luzerne County Courthouse had religious displays that were clearly unconstitutional. I filed a complaint to the ACLU. lighted up at night that was way overlooking all the other displays, a menorah way off to the side that wasn't lighted at night, and a snowman behind a tree in the back. So eventually the displays were taken down, and the people in this county went absolutely crazy. I've received so much hate mail, threats, nonsense. People are wanting to send me to hell. My soul's tormented, and it's getting absolutely ridiculous. They don't want to listen to the arguments that this is unconstitutional, and they keep saying things like, oh, you're trying to take away freedom. You're trying to take away my rights. I want to celebrate Christmas. And they don't want to listen to the arguments here.
I have some questions because I'm not familiar with the specifics of this case. What the nativity scene and the other elements, were they put up by individuals or by the town?
The government actually put them up. They bought the items, they maintained the items, and they were using taxpayer money for lights on them too.
And
it was a government display.
And did they have anything that precluded competing displays? For example, you know, the Freedom from Religion Foundation and other secular organizations, because a private group, for example, putting up a display at Capitol isn't a problem unless they're shown preferential treatment and somebody else is denied. You can't put up your secular Christmas thing, but we get to put up a religious thing. That's a clear violation. In your case, it seems the violation is that this isn't about individuals putting it up. It's about the government just out and out paying for religious displays.
Yes, the government completely constituted free speech in the area, and the nativity scene and the menorah were counted as separate displays because they were so far away from each other. There was no effort for thematic unity. There was no effort to make it a neutral message. It was a clear governmental endorsement, and the ACLU sent a letter out about December 11th, and at the last possible moment, the courthouse responded and said, all right, we're taking it down, and now the county goes crazy. They say, oh, we didn't want to have a legal battle because we're broke and this and that, but they're not willing to stand up and say what we did is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
They're not willing to say that. They're just trying to pander to the voters. They are the courthouse. They should know the law. They're violating the law. We shouldn't need to send letters. They should know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So you've been getting death threats and hate mail?
Well, not death threats. But a lot of threats. People.
Well, after death threats.
I have a whole folder actually on my desktop with all this. It's a lot of ignorance. People don't know the law. People don't want to listen. This one person, apparently from the Marine Corps, sends me a message here. It ain't unconstitutional. You dummy. The God Constitution says the right to free religion. The courthouse religion is Catholic, so that's what they are displaying. Now shut up and crawl back into your hole and go play your little D&D and beat off with your friends. So that was kind of interesting.
Nice.
So we've got at least one Marine serving who doesn't understand the oath he took to uphold and defend the Constitution. That's
Well, he might
appalling.
understand the oath. He just doesn't understand the Constitution behind the oath.
Yeah.
I'm supporting the Constitution, and that church is, that courthouse's religion is Catholic.
That's what he says.
Wow. That's, yeah.
There have been a lot of really good ones. I mean, if you Google my name, it's Justin Bakula. You can easily find everything. I'm being lambasted on Craigslist. They said, when am I going to go down there with a pink cigar and, you know, have a poll and this and that, and it's getting absolutely out of hand. My wall has been flooded, but it's been kind of entertaining, and it proves the point here that these religious people don't want to listen to clear argumentation. They haven't even read the legal arguments, and even if they did, they say, oh, we don't care, we just want our tradition.
Yeah.
So they say, you know, just forget the law.
Yeah,
People
it's
accept it.
they're happy to endorse the law when the law supports them, and they ignore it when it doesn't. And they do the same for science. They're happy to cite science when science appears to support them, and they're happy to ignore and deny science when science doesn't. It's an entirely win-win situation for them. You know, it's so absurd that it's difficult for me to even grasp how I ever thought remotely like that.
I know.
And yet I also know people who currently think like that. I have people that I deeply care about who think like that. And it's one of the reasons why we keep doing what we're doing here, because one of these days I'd like to think that it may be possible to figure this stuff out, to figure out what it is that drives people. You know, is it just fear? Is it just ignorance? Is it a combination? Is it, you know, some evolutionary remnant of relying on authority? I don't know.
Well, and I think it a lot of people that you know, they want to have religion in the public square. It's almost like they want some kind of government endorsement of religion, but they're ignorant of what happens when you do that. And Europe is a very interesting case in that, because most countries in Europe have some kind of official church. And what you see over there is that having this official government-sponsored church has basically eliminated the competition. So all of these other different beliefs that people have, and I mean, we've got, I can't even count how many different denominations we have here, and even some of the stranger ones that have sprung up as, you know, homegrown American denominations. But, you know, one of the reasons that these groups have flourished in this country is because there is this competition for ideas, and because there's no official endorsement of government religion. So I think that, you know, people that want the government to endorse their brand of religion, they don't seem to get what they're asking for. But, you know, if people are really hell-bent on living in a theocracy, tell them to move to Saudi Arabia. You know, they got a theocracy there. They'll hook them up. Of course, you know, the argument will be, well, that's not my religion, but that's the beauty of a theocracy. You don't actually get to pick the religion you have to practice.
Well, the interesting thing here is with all the corruption and the scandal in the courthouse, these judges have been taken out, these people, recently the county commissioner admitted that he took a bribe and everything, and I'm the one standing out doing the right thing, upholding the law, making the arguments, and I'm being lambasted for doing the right thing. And more people are apparently concerned more about this nativity scene than the juveniles getting arrested and put into prison.
Yeah, and I did hear about that case with the juveniles getting arrested and imprisoned because of the kickbacks to the judges. Did you aware of that?
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, the story on that, I'll just summarize it really briefly. The story on that is that there were a couple of judges that were overseeing juvenile cases, and there were lots of juvenile cases coming up that should have been, you know, the defendants should have had probation or some lesser penalty because it was a first offense or it was pretty minor. Instead, the judges were remanding them to this private correctional facility. And later it turned out that the judges had a financial interest in these private correctional facilities, and they got a kickback for everybody they sent to prison.
Nice.
So, and these were, you know, it would be bad enough if these were adult offenders, but these were juveniles, and so it was a pretty traumatic experience for a lot of the kids.
Yeah, so how about the good Catholic values there? They say, oh, the courthouse religion is Catholic, and
absolutely,
we uphold these rights and everything. So those are great Catholic values.
Well,
right
and if these guys are Catholic, then, you know, if you look at that, and we had, you know, the priest sex abuse scandal here in the U.S., and now that whole abuse scandal in Ireland has come to light, you know, and this, you know, I really don't think they can make a good case for good Catholic values these days.
Well, thanks a lot for calling, Justin. I appreciate what you're doing up there. And I don't know, do you run a blog or anything where you post these things?
Yes, I do run a blog. It's called greenatheist.blogspot.com. I'm also a member of the NEPA Free Thought Society. We're going to have our meeting next week, the day after Christmas. And that's going to be quite interesting because people have said, oh, we're going to come down and protest, and we're going to talk to you, we're going to set you straight, and everything like that. So if there are any callers from Pennsylvania and they want to attend the meeting, you're more than welcome to attend.
Get a video camera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There have already been a lot of protests at the courthouse. A lot of people out for like 3 hours stopping traffic. You know, it's really ridiculous. It's getting crazy.
Well, thanks a lot for keeping us updated, and feel free to call back in, you know, after Christmas is over. Let us know how your meeting went, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Justin. Right. We got Michael in California.
Hey, what's up, Matt?
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Jim?
Not bad.
Hey, I'd just like to say about 2 callers ago, that guy was saying that the girl had the shirt, put the Christ back in Christ Mass. That's like saying put the wedding back in Wednesday. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about in Uganda. There's a bill being proposed. It's like an anti-gay bill, the death penalty for anybody.
Oh, it's not just an anti-gay bill; it's a kill the gays bill.
Yeah.
It's the death penalty for anybody.
Not everybody who's gay, just people who are caught being gay and test positive for HIV.
Yeah.
It's kill the HIV people.
Yeah, it's heartless, deplorable, horrible stuff. And I was surprised to learn.
We seem to have lost him.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, Michael, for whatever reason we seem to have lost you. For those people who aren't familiar, we talked about it quite a bit yesterday on the nonprofits, so if you want to go check out that show, we talked about it in great detail, including the link to the C Street family.
Yeah.
There is a bill in Uganda, and we went over the specifics of it, that is basically a let's kill people who are HIV positive and gay. And included in the bill is something akin to, if you know somebody who's gay and HIV positive and you fail to report them, you get penalized. I mean, that's the type of witch hunt thing that we're talking about here. It was originated by somebody in that C Street family here in the United States.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that bill is that they've elevated homosexuality, because it's not just if you're gay and HIV positive. If you're gay, if you have gay sex, however you define that, you can be imprisoned for like 3 years. And if you're gay and HIV positive, then you can be imprisoned for like life or get the death penalty.
Yep.
So it's a pretty draconian bill. Not only that, if you go somewhere else where it's not illegal to be gay and you have gay sex and somebody finds out about it, then they're supposed to turn you in and you're supposed to be extradited to Uganda. So they basically elevated this to a criminal offense equivalent to treason. And it's just, I mean, the mind boggles. You just can't imagine why they would do this. Except, of course, they are desperate to do something about HIV, and, you know, blaming it on the gay people is a pretty convenient scapegoat. But anyway, it's been all over the news. Rachel Maddow's been covering it extensively. She's got a lot of good stuff on there, including the connection to the family on C Street. And fortunately, a lot of the recent news coverage has put some pressure on people, legislators who've had connections to the family, and they've actually started to speak out about it. Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, we talked, I'm not going to go through this whole thing again. We discussed Rick Warren's comment about this on yesterday's show.
Yeah.
For a second, I was really proud of him, and then he turned out to be just the same old prick he always is. So.
Yeah.
We've got Jeff in Dallas.
Yes, hello.
How are you, Jeff?
I'm wonderful. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
I just wanted to touch on something really quick. Something I've been wanting to talk about for a while is belief, and whether or not, because a lot of people will talk about how you choose not to believe or you choose to believe a certain thing, and I've always complained that belief isn't necessarily a choice. It's not something you can really choose to believe, as far as like truthfully. And kind of wanted to get your opinion on whether or not it's based on your personal experience, or whether it's something you've been taught, or whether something that you've seen or experienced may be evidence for you, and maybe that's why it's caused you to believe in something, and maybe you can kind of shift one way or the other.
I completely agree. I don't think it's in any way a simple exercise of will or a simple choice as to what you believe. I've talked about this a number of times, and if you go to the ACA website and go to the lecture series and navigate down that page a little bit, you'll find a lecture that I gave on belief. I think that I addressed the issue of whether or not belief is subject to free will in there, but since I've talked about it so many times, I'll let Jen give her thoughts on it.
Yeah, I completely agree that belief is not a subject to will. And of course, the example that we give all the time is if you believe that gravity is an illusion, and you jump off the roof of your house, you'll break a leg or injure yourself in some way. But, I mean, most people understand that, so anybody that claims gravity is an illusion and they're going to jump off the house in response to that would probably want to have them evaluated for a psychological disorder, because most people have direct experience with this. They know how gravity works. You can't just choose not to believe in it.
Correct. I agree completely, and that's been kind of the situation I've kind of gone through, is that people will tell me, well, why can't you just, try to believe? It's like, well, I can't force myself to. It's not,
Well,
I can't just make myself believe in something.
And so people say, oh, well, you know, I believe in God because, you know, I've witnessed miracles. It's like, well, you know, okay, that may be a rational reason for you to believe, but why would I accept that? You know, I've never seen a miracle. Why would I accept your claim that some miracle happened? So, you know, I can't simply just disregard my entire life's experience and choose to believe that someone else's miracle is valid.
Yeah, the shortest path or shortest explanation I can come up with is, to me, belief is acceptance that a claim is true, and acceptance is as a result of being convinced. Now, you can be convinced for good reasons or bad reasons, but I am not convinced that you can be convinced simply by an exercise of will. Now, what I will say is that, you know, we talked about wanting to believe something. There are our desires certainly affect the way our minds work. And if you desire to believe something, you may, in a non-simplistic sense, begin to change what sort of evidence you're willing to accept. In other words, build a structure that eventually convinces you to accept what you're believing. But this very simplistic of, I'm going to choose to believe this versus I'm going to choose not to believe this, I think that's asinine. And the second part of that, where people say, well, you know, can't you just try to believe? Well, depending on what their claim is, I may not want to believe. I'm entirely with Hitchens that the idea of some kind of getting to the end of my life and finding out that this life was some kind of cosmic joke and testing ground by some sick, twisted God being who designed everything and is going to judge based on all these actions, and your real life starts after you're dead. I mean, I don't have any reason to want to believe that. Oh, sure, I'd like to live longer than I'm going to live, perhaps even forever. I'm still debating that issue. But the idea of wanting to believe that there's some bumbling God who made mistake after mistake and loves blood sacrifice, and killed himself for a weekend in order to save everybody, I don't even want to believe that.
What about kind of like a sociopathic tendency where if you maybe tell a lie enough times, you start to believe it, and kind of like a form of self-delusion? Do you think a lot of people are just kind of fall into that category?
Yeah, but I also wouldn't call that, I think we'd both agree that's also not an exercise simply of the will. I mean, the mind can be trained.
Right.
And I think that our minds are trained, and we are all a little bit brainwashed through, I mentioned many times, we rely too much on induction and inference because they're generally reliable. We make mistakes that aren't discovered. And of course, these mistakes affect us because we build every future bit of information, every new understanding that we gain is based on everything that's come before. And there are numerous little mistakes, and most of them are probably innocuous and don't really have any catastrophic effects on the new understandings that we're acquiring. But occasionally, there's going to be some bit of misinformation in that structure that is going to poison everything up and get you to a point where you believe something with insufficient information. And I think that baseline training is what we're talking about when we're talking about things like mind control or learning by repetition or telling a lie so many times that it becomes the truth.
Right. Yeah, I've actually been watching some videos by Darren Brown. I don't know if you've had the chance to look at him, but his stuff
I love
was really...
Darren.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I love Darren.
Yeah, his stuff was really, really good. But I didn't want to get off topic too much. I know you guys were talking about the war on Christmas, and I don't know if you guys had heard about these new buttons that people are wearing saying that it's okay to wish me Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I don't really have any objection to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit snotty, but so am I.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. And by the way, it's okay to wish me Merry Christmas. I'm not going to be offended if somebody called. It's okay to wish me Happy Hanukkah. You could say whatever you want to me. I'm not going to be offended. Now, on some level, it's absurd. To come up, hey, Happy Hanukkah. It'd be like telling me Happy Birthday on your birthday. It's kind of like that, but it's not offensive.
Right.
it doesn't faze me. And as somebody who actually celebrates Christmas from an entirely secular perspective, and by the way, when I say celebrate Christmas, I mean I have on many occasions gotten together with family. I do exchange gifts on occasion. There have been Christmases, though, where I sat at home and did nothing and didn't really bother talking to anybody, and didn't get together and exchange gifts or anything. So it's entirely up to whether or not I feel like it. But thanks a lot for calling, Jeff. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much. Appreciate the guys. Thanks a lot.
Did you have something to add on that?
No.
I stomped all over that. I
No.
just realized. I
just, you know.
marched right through the belief thing.
No, it's because you have
I
a
have.
Jesus-shaped hole in your heart.
Yeah. Grinch. We've got Richard in Pennsylvania.
Hey. Actually, my question was, do you actually believe in a soul?
No.
What my question is basically, I am a brain. That's what the whole thing comes from. Like, if I'm thinking and I'm logically here, I could be anyone's brain. It's a little crazy talk, but, you know, how am I this person? Why aren't I a different person?
Yeah, I think if you think about, you know, what you're experiencing you're experiencing your own consciousness, okay, and that experience is very subjective and personal. And if you think about, you know, where are you in there? It's kind of hard to pinpoint it, but most people think, well, I'm somewhere in here, you know. But the way we use our brain to figure out what other people are going to do, and it's one of the things we have to do as social animals. We have what's known as the theory of mind. I have a theory that my mind exists. I exist, and my mind is actually the activity of my brain. Okay, so if I have a theory of that my mind exists, I can have a theory that yours does too. Okay, and now I've posited the existence of an unverifiable entity called a mind. Okay, and once we've done that, it's a pretty short leap to conclude that this mind exists independent of our physical life. And I think that's really where people get this idea of a soul. It's this unverifiable entity called a mind. We don't remember when we first became conscious because it happened when we're so young. So we think that we've always been here in this brain, this mind. And so we have this concept of a soul. And, you know, I think that's where it comes from. It's sort of like an evolutionary trait that kind of jumped the tracks a little bit, and it allows us to go off in a different direction.
To kind of answer or respond to a question you ask of, you know, why are you and not somebody else? Why isn't copper uranium? Because it's not. I mean, you are what you are. The idea that your brain could have a different conscious, sentient personality in it is true. We know this is true because people have suffered brain damage, which has resulted in dramatic personality shifts. And brain hemispherectomies can often result in two different personalities with different desires and thoughts within a single brain or within the two lobes of a brain. And there are ways of communicating with each half independently. This is all it's all interesting stuff that sounds almost science fiction-y. But the brain is not completely understood. We're a long way from that. But the idea that there is something extra it's understandable why people come to that, as Jen was pointing out. It's an idea that's appealing, but it's not necessarily an idea that is true. And this kind of Cartesian theater of the mind and the intentional stance of saying, I am me, and I can see what you're doing, and you're you. And well, when I'm dead, am I dead? You know, am I just the the physical? And the answer is, as far as we can tell, yes. Every single thing that people have attributed to a soul that is identifiable, personality, likes, dislikes, thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensory information, all of that is reasonably identifiable in different areas of the brain and distinct from individual to individual. Now, what people do is they hypothesize something on top of this, that yes, your brain does all this, but there's some non-physical soul thing that is like the brain behind the brain. And there's no evidence for this at all. There's no reason to think that that's true.
All right, do you think if there's some way that my brain could be transplanted into another human body, do you think I'd still be here as the brain itself?
If it were possible to transplant your brain into another body and you got the whole brain, do I think that that your personality and who you are would transfer with your brain? Yes.
All right, yeah, that's basically all my question. I'm sorry, it's
Sure.
sort of confusing.
Well,
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that that's true. It may be the case, first of all, it may be the case that it's impossible.
Yeah.
You're talking about lots, and I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, but thanks a lot for the call. You're talking about lots and lots of connections
Yeah.
that may forever be beyond our ability to do properly. It may also be the case that simply moving a brain and trying to make those new connections fundamentally changes what's in that brain. And it'd be like my eyes and Jen's eyes are similar. I mean, on an evolutionary scale, they're identical. On an individual scale, they're similar. If we were to wire my brain up just to her optic nerve so that I would be seeing through her eyes, something, I don't know, can they do eye transplant? I don't think
No,
they've completed an
they
eye
don't.
transplant yet. But if we were to do that and wire it up, what input would my brain be receiving? It wouldn't be receiving exactly the same information that it would get from my eyes, because her eyes are slightly different. And so the information is going to be slightly different. My brain's going to process it slightly different, and that's going to begin to change who I am. We are all changing all the time. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not even made of the same stuff. And what is it, 7 years until every atom in your body's been replaced? And yet I am still me. And that's because the definition of what is me changes as I change. And that's as close as we can come to I think, addressing that.
But we've talked about this theory of mind thing before, and it's really interesting because we've pointed out on the show before that some autistic individuals never develop a theory of mind. So they never have this sense of self or...
The intentional stance, the ability to
Yeah.
discern what somebody,
Yeah,
that there's another mind
Yeah, I would
thinking
say
too.
actually not this sense of self. They don't develop the sense of being able to understand other people as intentional agents. So, and that's a critical social mechanism that we need in order to basically get along as social animals. So that actually addresses, some of the issues they have with social interactions. And that's not certainly true of all autistic individuals, but it's one of the things that's been identified. And it's not, this theory of mind is not a product of intelligence, because if you look at kids with Down syndrome, they do develop a theory of mind, and they develop it on the same timeline as any other kid. So it's not a product of intelligence. And the other thing is you can lose your theory of mind. So if you develop Alzheimer's, for example, Alzheimer's patients typically do lose a sense of correctly interpreting other people's intentions and even the sense of themselves. So, yeah.
So Michael from California has managed to call back, and we'll get to him in just a second. I wanted to go ahead and get the announcements out of the way that I keep forgetting to repeat, and that is that after the show's over, here in about 35 minutes, everybody involved in the show gets together for dinner at Threadgill's at 301 West Riverside Drive. We'll be there around 6:30 p.m. Don't be embarrassed in the slightest. You can walk right up to the nice people at the front counter and say, "I'm here to meet up with the godless heathens, those reckless atheists who are here every Sunday." And she'll say, "Oh yeah, they're right back there." They know us. We have a really good relationship with that restaurant, and glad to be back. We had to take some time off while we were doing the show from my place. But so, Michael, are you back?
Yeah.
I'm
thanks.
sorry you got cut off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right, how far did I get? Well, what was I saying when I got cut off? I'm not sure right when I got cut off.
Well, you were talking about this bill, and then after you got cut off, we continued because we talked about this on yesterday's Nonprofits in a lot more detail.
Okay, well, I just wanted to bring up American evangelical support for the bill.
Yeah.
With
The
Rick
C
Warren,
Street.
the famous evangelical author.
Rick Warren does not support the bill.
He doesn't.
No, Rick Warren came out and said that he is strongly opposed to the bill. But what he said was, and it's stupid, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, I strongly oppose this bill, but gay people are still abominations that deserve to die. He didn't say it like that. What he said was, we cannot deny the biblical position with regard to homosexuality, but I strongly oppose this bill. I mean,
That's probably like a political opposition rather than an ideological one, I think.
Yeah, it was one of the sleaziest moves I've ever seen. And it was, when I heard that he strongly opposed that bill, I was like, wow, finally Rick Warren's done something that I agree with, that I can appreciate. And then he had to go and taint it with this, but we all know that gays are still evil, and this is the guy who was at the inauguration, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there are other, the Pray Out the Gay movement with like Richard Cohen, those guys who claim to have fixed gay people here in America. He supports this bill, and I'm just wondering, should these organizations still have tax-exempt status? They're supporting foreign legislation. It's horrible.
Actually, I was going to correct you on something. Cohen says that he doesn't support the bill, even though his book was used as the basis for a lot of the arguments in favor of this bill. He came out and said that he doesn't support something like that, that he promotes this reparative therapy, which is garbage. So he does not support the bill, even though his book was used heavily by the people who wrote the bill.
Wow, I seem to be guilty of slander against those two people. I apologize to them.
That's all right. They're both asshats.
Yeah, they really are asshats. And I mean, Rachel Maddow hammered Cohen on her show.
I bet he enjoyed that.
Yeah, well. Anyway, she was pointing out that he quoted some stuff in his book that came. It was lifted almost verbatim from the work of Paul Cameron, who is. He's very dishonest. He's not a legitimate researcher. He's the guy that he concluded that gay men were more likely to die young because he read some obituaries, and he was collecting. And that was how he sampled a population. Was he would read obituaries and he would pluck out all the gay people and compare those with the numbers of non-gay people, but he was using. Papers in like West Hollywood and stuff where there's a high percentage of gay men who at the time he did this survey were dying from AIDS. So it was a horrible sampling methodology. He's been kicked out of every professional association that he was a member of. So his work was thoroughly discredited, and Cohen quotes him in the book as if he's a legitimate source.
And to address your other question real quick, and then I'm going to get on to some other callers. You asked, should they be tax exempt considering they're supporting and giving opinions on foreign legislation? First of all, I don't think they should be tax exempt at all. But given that they are, their position on foreign legislation is completely irrelevant. They're not taxed by those foreign governments. There's nothing that says they can't speak out. And the other issue with regard to the tax exempt thing is that tax exempt nonprofit organizations are allowed to speak out with regard to legislation. They're just not allowed to endorse parties or individuals. Right. So I can speak out against whatever legislation I want to, but I can't say vote for Governor Goodhair or something like that.
All right, I see.
So thanks a lot, Michael. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling back.
Yeah, thank you too.
We've got Leanne in Austin.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm fully aware of who Rick Warren is, and I kind of know where he stands, but I was pretty much kind of where y'all were at one time. And I don't get those two stories mixed up in regards to Rick Warren's book and the woman that talked to the guy that killed some of the guys in the courthouse, and she talked to him about this book that Rick Warren. Well, this is another story that happened several years ago, I think in San Antonio, Texas. And a serial killer by the name of Stephen Moran kidnapped her from Kmart. And she was a very devout Christian. And being with him for many hours, she witnessed to him. And the reason I bring this up is because what's happened to Stephen Moran happened to me as well. But with him for hours that day and talking to him, he finally surrendered his life to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you knew the story. It's too long to tell. But later, after he was caught and convicted and put on death row, his birthday gift was to talk to this Christian woman once again. And he had prayed. He said, if this is real, if you're real, God, make this come true to me by giving me this last death wish, you may call.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, he asked for this woman to come see him. Well, that's kind of unusual for this woman to be able to come and see him and come and actually talk to him. And
why is that unusual?
But when they did, well, I don't know, but anyway,
you say that it is, but now you say you don't know. Okay, go ahead. I'm trying to find out what's the point of all this.
And she goes in to ask to see him. He asked her, he said, do you remember when we were together and I threw my hands up? And she said, yes. And he said, I started crying, and he said, now I understand what you're talking about. Because all his life he had been so angry, and he had killed many women. And in fact, he had killed one the night before he kidnapped her at 2 o'clock. He said, but the moment that I raised my hands up, he said, I want you to know what happened to me. And she asked him what? He said, God spoke to me audibly, and I could hear him. And he spoke to me, and he said, Stephen, this is the last time I'm going to call you. And I was in a relationship at the point of no return, and God spoke to me in 96 the very same way. And that's the reason I could relate to Stephen Moran.
So you audibly heard God?
I audibly heard
like
him.
A voice outside talking to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Waking up my bed, getting ready to go to shopping, no one at home. He audibly asked me, do you want to be on this side of the light or the dark? And I knew with no doubt in my mind that there was a voice with authority speaking to me. And there was no Christian who it was. And I said, well, I want to be on the side of the light, knowing exactly what he meant, but yet I'd never heard that term before. And he said,
you've never heard the side of the light before? Did you not see Star Wars?
No.
Okay.
I don't watch movies like that. But he said, then follow me. And I had no question who he was.
Both of
sad because
Leanne,
because when the Holy Spirit comes up on you, he shows you the truth.
Leanne, both of those stories are interesting. I'm wondering what's the point?
That y'all don't know that there is God and the Holy Spirit.
You're correct. You are absolutely correct. You called in to tell us what we already know. That God has not revealed himself to us, and that is one of the reasons why we don't believe. If a God revealed himself...
But he will someday.
Oh, my... Well, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah.
He will.
You know, Leanne, I have a question for you.
Sure.
When you first called in, you said something to the effect that you were where we are once before?
Yeah, not just in limbo, like the kid that had called you
Okay,
and said about the mind. You know, you don't know, what am I here for? What is
I'm not in limbo like that.
Part business?
That is not where we are.
That's not where we are.
I'm not convinced that you ever were where we are.
Yeah, in fact, I'm quite certain that you were not.
Were you a Christian for 30 years studying to be a minister when you realized that there was simply no evidence to support your beliefs and you rejected them for purely rational reasons?
No.
Then you've never been where I am. Ever.
No, but if you don't believe, you don't believe.
That's correct. And you know what? If I hang up, I hang up. A tautology is a tautology. You had more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, darn, I wanted to talk to her some more.
I apologize. Leanne, if you want to call back, and I don't think you would, if you do want to call back, Jen would like to continue talking to me. I apologize for my frustration because there's a level of inanity that I just can't tolerate. Well, God's eventually going to talk to you. Okay. Making claims about what you believe and the level to which you believe it is all well and good. But the only thing that matters is why. Your individual confidence about what you believe, your conviction about that it's true, is entirely irrelevant to everybody else. I got a report from somebody who went to Sunday school this morning, who part of their Sunday school lessons was this pithy little saying that nowadays uncertainty is prized over assurance and tolerance is prized over conviction. Well, yeah, true, and for damn good reasons. Uncertainty is prized over assurance. What an odd phrasing. Uncertainty is prized over assurance. Not uncertainty is prized over certainty, because that's false. We would all prefer to be certain.
Sure.
But what is assurance? It's trust supported by faith.
Yeah.
Somebody made a promise.
Trust me.
I assure you I'm right. Well, congratulations. I'm glad you can assure me. But it doesn't change the fact that until your assurance comes true, I am uncertain. And recognizing that uncertainty is what allows us to pursue and investigate and increase our understanding for good reason. Yes, uncertainty is prized over assurance, and for good reason. The second phrase of that, tolerance is prized over conviction. Yeah, and what exactly is wrong with that? Are you really going into Sunday schools and saying, once upon a time, people stood by their convictions, but now, and when they name all this tolerance, everybody's gotten all wishy-washy? Well, it's true. It's called growing. It's called increasing your understanding. It's called, I'm not going to sit around and be intolerant of people just because they disagree with my strongly held convictions. There are things that we should be intolerant of, and for very good reason. But I'm going to stop, and even though it's not fair, you can address Leanne afterwards. And I do apologize for the hang-up thing.
Well, no, this whole, your comment on uncertainty and doubt and everything, it reminds me of a quote by Richard Feynman that I'm particularly fond of. And it says that I can live with doubt and uncertainty and not knowing. I think it's much more interesting to live not knowing than to have answers that might be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I feel about it. I would rather not know the answer than to make something up. And as far as I can tell, that's what theists are doing when they assert that they know that it was God that spoke to them. I don't know. Maybe they truly believe that. I don't know. But
I think one of the reasons, and I still apologize, I do feel bad. I think one of the reasons that I was quick to hang up on Leanne was because we sat here and listened to somebody else's story, and then her story, and then attempting to interrupt to get any sort of clarification about what it was about went unanswered as somebody kept rambling on about the Holy Spirit. And to me, it seemed like somebody who was calling in to preach and not to discuss.
yeah.
And when asked questions, if all you can reply with is bald assertions and tautologies, I'm not that interested in continuing the conversation. It's all well and good if you think you have a justified reason for believing. He pretty much admitted that we don't. And I'll let Jen wait. I'm done hanging up on people so that when you have something to add, you can actually add it.
Okay.
We got Brady in San Francisco.
Yes.
How you
Hi.
doing?
Hey, I called in last week, but neither of you were there.
All right, I'm hanging up on you then.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Hey, I don't know if you've heard about this, but earlier this month, the city council in Washington, D.C. passed a bill allowing same-sex marriage in the city.
Yes.
Yep.
Which is good. Yay.
Yeah.
And the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., well, not of, but he's in Washington, D.C., did a very weird thing, and I want you guys' take on this.
He got married.
Oh, you've already heard this?
Oh, no, I hadn't. Did I guess right?
What?
Did I guess right?
I don't know. I forgot the guy's name. But while it was still being debated in city council, he had said that if the bill passed, if they passed this, he and his church would revoke their support of the poor and needy in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I had heard about that.
And now the bill's passed, and I was wondering what you think he's going to do. I mean...
Well, I don't know, but there you have Catholic values on display again.
Yeah, is that what Jesus would do?
It's like, okay, if they're giving this aid to the poor and the needy because they think that's the right thing to do, why is that in any way connected with who gets married?
I know, exactly.
It's either right or because they believe that that's right, or they've turned this into political leverage to try to influence legislation.
It's blackmail, and their true colors are showing.
Yeah.
Hey, we'd like to keep helping people out, but not unless you agree with us on this particular issue. Okay. I think it's abominable, and I don't know why there aren't more people outraged about it, particularly Catholics, particularly individuals from those churches saying, you know what, we're still going to give money to help our fellow citizens out. It's kind of like saying, well, I was going to feed my baby, but my next door neighbor decided to mow his lawn and I asked him not to. So now I'm not going to feed my baby until he stops mowing his lawn. Yeah. I mean, it's that insane.
That's an even eviler example than the one I was using, which is like, oh, hey, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to shoot the puppy. But all right, well, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Brady.
Sure.
Can I hang up now?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask permission from now on for the rest of the day. It kills me because there was more to talk to about Leanne, and I blew it.
That's okay.
But, well, anyway. Andrew in Florida.
Hello.
How are you?
How you guys doing? I'm good. How are you?
Irritated.
Yeah, I saw that. I can see why.
Mostly
it sounded like Eve that you had a little while ago. But
it sounds like what?
Sounded like Eve that you thought.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that. You do know who Eve is, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Anyways, I just want to thank you guys. It's a good show to actually help me convert, or deconvert, I guess.
No, I have to ask you something.
Okay.
Now that you've deconverted, have we ruined your life or destroyed your will to live or anything like that?
Oh, I'm cutting my wrist right now.
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
I can't handle it. No. No, I've actually seen improvement in my life.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
So,
Great.
it's good.
No, we get a lot of email from concerned trolls who say, hey, don't you think you're taking people's will to live by stealing their faith?
Not at all. I've become much happier.
Okay.
Well, great.
Good.
Go ahead. Ask your question.
Anyways, one of my questions is my mom and stepdad actually are hardcore Greek Orthodox Christians, and they preach to me all the time. I have to sit there and listen to it. I haven't told them yet. Of course, I've heard you have a few calls about this, but what do you think I should do about that? That's just one of my questions. I have a couple more, though. How should I...
About telling them that you're an atheist?
How should I approach them, or do you think I even should, or just let it be for a little while?
How old are you?
18.
Are you going to be financially dependent on them for a while?
I actually live with my dad, but they live 30 minutes away. I visit them quite a bit. But
I don't know your parents, so I can't even begin to guess at what their reaction is. And considering that I wasn't Greek Orthodox, I don't even have a good reference point. What I can say, it's a cop-out to say that you're the only one who can decide. But what I can say is that you'll know that it's the right thing to do when you come to a point where you're more comfortable with it, where you would prefer to be honest with them about who you are than to hide it. And if you have good reason to think that their reaction would be so negative that it would be damaging to your health or welfare, obviously you don't ever have to say a word. Praise Jesus and lie your ass off if you think that your life is in danger. I don't think that's the case. I mean, although I have had some emails about extreme responses, but there are a number of ways that I've suggested people try doing it. One of them that I've become a little more fond of is just to stop pretending. First of all, don't come out and say, "Mom, Dad, I need to let you know I'm an atheist." Instead, don't participate with church stuff. don't play along and pretend. Just begin to treat it like it's a non-issue. And this, when and if it promotes the discussion or prompts the discussion about what you believe, that's when you can say, well, I just don't believe that. I don't believe that. And then you can have a discussion that doesn't begin with, dun, 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 I'm an atheist. Instead, you can have a discussion that begins with, hey, we thought you were just like us, and now we're finding out you're a little different, and we can work through this and figure out where we stand. And you may find out that the end result's the same, that there's still this tension. But I think it's probably a better approach than what I did, for example. But.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's definitely. I'm expecting quite a response, because I've even talked to them about just looking at other points of view, and it's going to hurt your soul, and my goodness, I really couldn't get them to understand that if your beliefs are true, then you shouldn't really have a problem with looking outside the box. But
yeah, actually, the method that Matt described is pretty much how my family came to understand that I'm an atheist, although they don't use that word. But it was, and it was a little easier for me because I hadn't lived at home for a long time, and so I wasn't financially dependent on them, and hadn't been for a long time. But looking back on it, since they've come to understand that I'm an atheist, we've had like one major blow up, and that was one family member broke the rule, which was, we have this sort of don't ask, don't tell rule in my family with regard to religion, specifically my lack of religion. So one family member broke the rule. We had a nasty little discussion about that, and then we left it alone after that. So that's kind of the rule in the family. It's kind of kept the peace. And looking back, we had lots more contentious arguments when I was a teenager, and I was refusing to go to whatever church they wanted to attend at one time, and that was actually a denominational thing, because at the time I identified as Episcopalian, and they were trying out different churches, sort of this, cafeteria-style Christianity that lots of people, go through at some point. So, what Matt described is, just kind of slowly start withdrawing from religious participation might actually be the path of least resistance for you.
One note of encouragement or optimism is you should probably understand from the beginning that once everybody's cards are on the table, things will never be normal again, but they will proceed towards a new normal. Because unless your parents are some sort of sick, evil monsters, they love you, just like almost every other parent loves their kids. And they're going to have to find a way to reconcile their distaste for what your beliefs are with their love for you. And my parents and I have a pretty good relationship. Things have achieved a new normal, and part of it is we're not going to discuss this because they're ill-equipped. But I think it's a good thing in the sense that it puts them in the position of having to rectify their assumptions and preconceptions about what an atheist is with, this is the child that we love who's not really that much different from us and not much different from what we thought he was. Having to reconcile that, it softens people. It's hard to be mad at somebody when you know them. It's easy to vilify somebody as long as they're a stranger. It's like people talk about, I was a homophobe until I actually found out some of my friends were gay, and all of a sudden they're decent people, and so now I'm not a homophobe anymore, and it softens people that way. So you just treat them decently with respect, but limit the amount of crap you take, because you are the one who is changing the nature of the relationship, and so you bear some responsibility for that. On the other hand, that doesn't mean you're a punching bag, because if their view of you changes, it is entirely the responsibility. It is entirely their responsibility. And it is because of their religion. If their religion has poisoned their mind so much that they cannot accept you for who you are, that's their problem and not yours.
Yeah, hopefully. It's funny because I tell them that I'm just looking around and, apparently the devil is in everyone except, people of our religion, and they're all trying to harm me.
And if they kick you out, you can't live with me.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
So I was banking on.
I got no room.
All right, and I just had one other question.
Sure.
You probably can't, but how can we at this point reconcile free will with a completely naturalist, worldview?
I'm a compatibilist. I'd recommend reading Dennett's Elbow Room, Varieties of Free Will Worth Wanting, because that is a brilliant reconciliation of free will with determinism as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Could I get the title one more time? Like, write that down.
Yeah, Elbow Room,
All right.
Varieties of Free Will Worth Wanting, and then there's a kind of a follow-up that is Freedom Evolves, which is also very good. But Elbow Room's kind of like the starting point.
All right. Yeah, that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome.
By the way, that's my opinion on determinism and free will.
Yeah.
Not everybody in the ACA even agrees with that. We've had lots of discussions.
And the misanthrope I've been corresponding with, his latest email seems to indicate that, and perhaps I misunderstood him, but he seems to think that our ability to walk upright was a product of free will. So I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah. We got Evan in Colorado.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you guys doing?
Good.
I was just wondering if you guys, because I was debating a Christian friend of mine, and he said that his belief in God is purely scientific. Have you ever had a friend that said that, and have they ever tried to explain it to you like that?
We've had lots of people call and try to make that claim.
Yeah, but he's not like the typical creationist. He's not like a William Lane Craig or Kent Owen or a Ray Comfort. He's a perfectly reasonable person.
Yeah.
And I was
Not
just
perfectly.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a problem there.
I'll tell you something else that happened in I got a Sunday school report today. Being the Sunday before Christmas, their Sunday school teacher went off about the reliability of the Bible, and then went on to make this proclamation that scientists had verified the story of the Star of Bethlehem. Now, everybody in that Sunday school room, with the exception of my informant, is going to accept that claim uncritically. And they're going to parrot it to somebody else, just as their Sunday school teacher did. And yet it is entirely untrue. There is nothing there. And so they will think that they have a scientific basis for their belief. The only way to address this is to have somebody actually present that scientific evidence so that it can be subjected to the same critical scrutiny as any other claim.
okay, well,
If they won't do it, then it's just a claim.
Well, some people go to William Lane Craig and say that he is like the source of their information, and people just gobble it. I can't speak today. Gobble it up as if it were true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Well-
Questions I have.
Well, what kind of scientific evidence does your friend present?
I don't know, because he was replying to one of my atheist blogs that I've written, and the blog that he was referring to, I deleted them because my girlfriend got mad at me because, you're an atheist and I'm a Christian, and I was just writing all these atheist blogs, and she didn't like that, so I deleted them.
So you're unequally yoked, too.
Yeah,
So you're not
after a
only
while-
going out, you're not only dating somebody who strongly disagrees with you, but you're whipped as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's better to be whipped than to have no one at all. That's my personal opinion.
And that's fine if that's the way you feel. That's your prerogative.
Yeah.
I'd rather be with somebody who cares about me for who I am, and I don't have to pretend to be somebody I'm not. And barring that, I'd rather be by myself. Not everybody agrees, and they're all entitled to whatever. I was joking about the whip thing because you volunteered that she didn't like it, so you deleted it. I mean, I'm not knocking the fact that you're in a relationship with somebody you care about.
So anyways, I was posting these blogs. I deleted them, and I've finally gotten some of them back up, but the one that he was referring to, I deleted, and so I can't really put it up.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was, but I think I have a blog here that talks about something from it. Let me just check and see.
Well, actually, the reason we're kind of running short on time, and we've got some calls here, but most of the so-called scientific arguments for the existence of a God fall into some categories like the fine-tuning argument or cosmological argument or something like that. If you can identify those characteristics, you can Google that. There's plenty of refutations of those arguments online.
And most of them also have commentary at ironchariots.org.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, I'm almost out of time, so I got to let you go.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Evan. We've got Darian in London.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
Hello?
Hello? Oh, it's in
Hello.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
Yeah, it's you.
Awesome.
Sorry, Ustream is confusing me here. It's kind of
Yeah,
laggy.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's best if you mute that and just talk to us.
Yeah, ignore the stream.
I just closed it because it's confusing. But yeah, so I wanted to just ask a quick question because your topic is reason for season and stuff like that. And
45 seconds.
Oh, 45 seconds. Wow. Okay. I recently have had a big issue with my aunt specifically because she's very Christian and she raises her kids really Christian. And I guess one of my hugest problems is how to deal with her over the Christmas holiday. I don't want to be on my own, but I wonder if you had any tips on how to deal with her without having to get into these conversations. Because it seems to be a big issue of contention lately.
So she's proselytizing to you?
Yeah, she basically, she thinks that I'm rebelling and doesn't accept that I'm just not a Christian. So
Okay.
So she seems to think that
Is she right?
No, it's definitely not. I mean, I am an atheist. I absolutely am.
Well, I mean, this is something that you can actually demonstrate and have discussions about, or if you're forced to, unfortunately, a lot of times you have to avoid the discussions. I'm afraid, I apologize, that we are out of time, so I got to let you go. Thanks to the crew, who, if they've got the camera
Our
ready,
awesome crew there.
they can show themselves. Please feel free, anybody, to join us at Thread Guilds on Riverside. And Leanne, I apologize, and if you show up at Thread Guilds, if you made it all the way through the show, I'll buy your dinner. So we look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And there's the information on our new opening theme and music.
Yeah.
See you next week.